Hello and welcome to Victoriana. It's a week or so into June now. We've actually just come back from holiday. I think we took the grotty weather with us, and while we've been away we've had wonderful weather here, and then when we came back we've had grotty weather again. So today is actually the first sunny day we've seen. As I say, before we went away it was grotty and cold, and so all the tomatoes we had in here just in case they needed heat, as for the chilies as well and all the squashes and bits and pieces. Then of course the weather came out hot while we were away. Everything's literally romped away, and in a few places it got away from us. Now it's gone cold and horrible again, and so now we're stuck with all our squashes that we want to get planted out and wondering whether we should just plant them out yet or hang on another week or so. But no, I'll give you a quick run around the nursery as to what's been going on and what we hope to do over the next few weeks. So out on the vegetable garden, it's gone from not being able to do anything at all because it was just so wet and claggy, and then of course out came the sun, so it's been all hands to the pumps. The sweet corn's in, the brassicas are in, beans are in, bits and pieces like that. So we're filling right up now. Got some weeding to do now because the weeds are growing as well as the plants are. Unfortunately the asparagus got away from everyone while we were away, so whilst a lot was eaten, it's now basically finished, and so we're letting the fern grow. But what is nice to see is that the potatoes are catching up. They were in very late this year because the ground was so wet, but they're starting to grow away quite nicely now, and have been earthed up once. So out here on the vegetable garden, we seem to have caught up a little bit. It hasn't quite got away from us yet, but if we have some more wet weather this week as we've had this past week, it will get away, because we just won't be able to get out here and keep up with the weeding and things like that. So it's a year now since the bees arrived with us, and here in the bee area we've now got a second hive. Our beekeeper brought in a second hive a week or so ago, and so we've got 2 colonies underway now, which is great, wonderful to see. The bee area itself has been weeded off, or rough weeded off, and then re-sown with our bee mix. We need to get in here and catch some of the bigger weeds that are coming through, but hopefully that will start catching up now we've got some better weather, and so this will be beautiful to look at and also wonderful for the bees to have all the nectar and pollen from. Here in the veg tunnel it's a case of all hands to the pumps. Before we went away the tomatoes, as I said before, weren't really growing, and while we've been away they've shot up literally. They were quite tight together in the other house where we had them, just in case of any late frosts, and so for the past few days we've been moving them into here, spacing them out, side shooting and tidying them up and getting them onto the longer canes. We're going to move out the raspberries quite soon because I hope to get the chilies in this coming week. And anyone who came to our open days last year will notice that instead of having the 4 rows of tomatoes, we've now ended up with 6. We're growing quite a few more varieties this year for trial and obviously for seed production. So we've got quite a few tomatoes in here, and I think we're going to be quite jam-packed. In actual fact, we've had to go back to our old area in the greenhouse where we used to grow them, out of sight of everyone, as a sort of overflow, and so we're going to have tomatoes in here and tomatoes down there, and the same with chilies and other cucurbits and other bits and pieces. So yeah, we're really going to be full up this year, I think. Just outside the tunnel we've put all the strawberries. They've come on wonderfully. Obviously we're having to net them to keep the birdies away, but we're getting some fantastic fruits on them, and I think we've got a few more weeks on those. And then we'll pop those around the corner out of the way, and they can have a relaxing summer holiday all ready for next year. So here in the top house, it's a completely different story to the clip at the beginning of May, where we were really struggling to get things to actually grow, particularly on herbs where they were just literally sitting in their pots. The few weeks of warm weather we had at the end of May have really brought things on throughout, and so finally we've got our full range of herbs and we're happy with their growth. They're going away very well. In the house as a whole, everything seems to be growing quite nicely. There's plenty of bits and pieces we need to get outside, which we'll be doing in the next week or so if the weather's kind and we can actually get on with some work outside. And as I said when I was in the veg tunnel, we've actually now moved tomatoes in here back to where we used to grow tomatoes because we've run out of room in the veg tunnel. And we'll also be putting in some squashes in here and also overflow chilies, as I call them. And more importantly than that, yesterday Mark was planting the pumpkins. These are our pumpkins, the staff pumpkins. There's a couple for the boys and a couple for the ladies. And we have competition between the staff as to who can grow the biggest pumpkin. So they're all in now, and it's just a case of everyone looking after their own pumpkin or their group pumpkin. And we'll see who grows the biggest one this year, which will be quite good fun. Out in the cell area, it's just about the end of spring vegetable production now. We kept things running a little bit later this year because the season was so late, but over the next few weeks we'll be finishing off on most of the crops, and so out here is really turning over to perennial production. Lots of bits and pieces to come out of the top greenhouse now, and if the weather's kind to us, they'll be coming out over the next week or two. And then obviously I guess we'll be thinking about autumn veg production not too long. It's quite scary just that we're halfway through the year already. And out here on the beds, everything is covered in leaf now. As I say, it was only a few weeks ago that many things were still looking like it was the middle of winter. But everything's leafed up and greened up, and so is the weeds, which is a pain, so we have to get through the beds and hoe the beds off, etc. Down the end there, the fruit trees that we potted have put on, some of them have put on 18 inches to 2 feet of extension growth, so things are really growing away now, which it should be, I guess, at this time of year, and gives us an awful lot of work to be getting on with. So that's it really for the beginning of June, or first week into June, and I'll catch up with you later on in the month.